Hi, Ellen. Welcome to the High Vibration Living Podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. So good to see you.
So good to see you too. And I thought just to get started, I'd love to jump into your backstory real quickly. What and where you were when you decided to create Hedley and Bennett for those that haven't heard your story or read your book.
Yes. Okay, so if you've ever watched Food Network or Top Chef, you might have seen a little red patch on the chest of the apron. And that is how you know we're talking about the same thing. That is a Hedley and Bennett product. That is the Hedley and Bennett logo. And that is the company that I started 12 years ago out of my house, literally out of the back of my Mini Cooper, while I was cooking professionally. And it's been insane, Whitney. Like, not gonna lie. I could be here for 2 years explaining all the crazy shit I've been through to keep this company alive and to make something out of nothing. And to make something out of thin air, I think is like my greatest joy, but it's also the hardest thing ever. So yeah, that's the company. I would say to just dive into the story of it. I have had a totally windy path in my life, right? Nothing was super clear other than the fact that I loved food from a very young age. That was my through line. And I've taken some like very windy roads to figure out this is how I'm going to do food. But I think that's really what we all need sometimes. It's just like, what is the peak of the top of the mountain? What is that? And then you run towards it and you realize there's like lots of ways to get to the top of the mountain. By no means do I think I'm at the top of the mountain, but metaphorically, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I think Hedley and Bennett became something because I wanted to fix a problem that I had seen while I was cooking. I was working at Providence, this restaurant in LA. It was super fine dining, like beautiful $1,000 meals per person kind of a spot. And I just hated our uniforms. I hated the way we all looked and felt in the kitchen. And I wanted to fix it. And it really started there. And I'm also a runner. And when I first started running, I got an outfit from Nike. And I was like, I'm a freaking runner now. And it really kind of changed the way I felt about running. And I thought, man, if I could do this for the culinary world, I could change the way that people show up in this industry and give them something that makes them feel proud of themselves, has some unique energy to it, and way higher quality than anything that exists. And that was it. That was like the seed in my head that started it. And, it's a much bigger company now than when I began it. But I also just kind of feel like we're in the first innings still. There's so much more to be done.
Yeah. And I told you when I first met you at the Female Founders event in LA where you were speaking, I told you when I first started as a personal chef, when I left working in restaurant kitchens and decided to go out on my own, the first thing I spent money on was not a chef's jacket, but it was buying one of your aprons, because I knew that like if I put the uniform on, it would allow me to mentally check in and perform at a higher level. And I think we often forget that in this day and age where you can kind of show up anywhere and be whoever you want to be, that the uniform that you put on when you walk out the door can still help you shift your mindset and execute at a higher level.
Oh, 100%. And it's like how you feel, right? Really comes off when you're talking to people and presenting an idea, etc. And I think for us, we realized, and I say we, I'm talking about our collective team. Our team sort of realized that, when you walk into a restaurant and everyone is wearing high quality aprons by Hedley and Bennett, there's like a connection to the quality of the ingredients that the restaurant uses. And so it's a little bit of it's become a stamp of approval. Like, oh, you're wearing Hedley and Bennett. Okay, cool. This chef must care about his staff, his ingredients, the food he's buying, where he's sourcing it from. Is he into regenerative farming? Is he going to go to the farmer's market and get certain ingredients from the best farmers? The answer is probably yes, because he cares about all those little details that make it great, versus just approaching uniforms as like another box on your checklist of stuff to get for a restaurant to make a generic restaurant, right? It's like, okay, everyone can get an apron, but can you get one that makes your team look and feel amazing? So people are probably like, oh my God, these women are talking about changing the world. We're talking about aprons. But hello, do not judge us. Do not at us. We are talking about real stuff that actually has a really big impact when you are working 13 hours a day and it's the thing you're putting on your body. Like psychologically, I am not kidding. And I know it does impact you.
Yeah, it's quality over quantity. And so I think you and I because of our culinary backgrounds, like we know that we'd rather work with higher quality ingredients and less of them than a pantry full of junk. And so I
Yes.
think it's same with like how I show up in life with the clothes that I wear, whether it's as a chef or at home. It's about quality over quantity.
Yeah, totally. And it's also, it's playing the long game. You can buy
Mm,
something that looks and feels great, but then falls apart 2 months later. And that just sucks. We don't want that. It's not good for the planet. It's not good for the bottom line. And for restaurants and really just home cooks too. Yeah, you could get hustled into a pan that you think looks good and then it like dies on you. You're going to be so mad. You want a Le Creuset quality Dutch oven that you're going to have for 100 years and then you're going to hand it down to your kids. That is my approach to Hedley and Bennett. And that's how I think about it. I
yeah.
think about the long game. I want something that's going to outlast me, frankly. I want it to outlast our company. I want us to be around for 100 years or more. I'm not trying to be a flash in the pan. And that's just been my approach from day one. So that was 12 plus years ago. And we're kind of like growing up now. We're like teenagers in our journey of being a business owner. I'm like a teenager now. Yeah. I've
Well,
learned a
I'd
lot.
love to, yeah, I'd love to know about that time where you were still having to work as a chef or a personal chef and fund your business. Because I feel like a lot of people think, okay, I have this dream, but I have my day job that pays the bills.
Yeah.
I'll just do both at the same time. But it's really hard, and no one talks about how hard that is. Can you just share a little bit more about how
Absolutely.
you were doing that, what your hours were like?
Yeah, like brass tacks, the way I did it was totally psychotic. I was a personal chef for two different families in the morning, and I whittled it down to one family. Then I also worked at two restaurants. So I had like this one job that paid me $25 an hour and I was like, "Woo, I'm killing it." And then I had my
Yeah.
two and then I had my two restaurant jobs that I was making like I think $11 an hour. And I say this out loud because I think it's
Mhm.
important to kind of position where I was at financially, right?
Yeah.
I was living in a house full of with a house full of friends. I think I was paying like $500 or $600 in rent a month, right? So my expenses a month were probably $3,000 all in at most, right? It was like scrappy, scrappy, scrappy. And I that included my car payment, insurance, healthcare, whatever, right? But it was just like I did not have a lot of excess cash to do other things. Maybe $500-$600 a month at best. And so what I was doing was I was working at these two restaurants, learning my craft, but then also had to juggle these three jobs. And so it helped me kind of learn how to handle my calendar a little bit more aggressively. Also, I'll add, before I was doing all of this, I lived in Mexico City and I had a million jobs while I was paying my way through culinary school. So I think just the hustle and bustle of being willing to be uncomfortable all the time was just ingrained into me. And I was constantly trying to jam 20 pounds into a 10-pound bag, like every
Yeah.
day, all the time. I live and die by my Google Calendar. And so I was just like putting it all in there. And I had a little notebook and I would run around and put my to-do list for the day. Okay, here's the 10 things I have to get done that have to do with work. And here's the 10 things I have to get done that are on a personal level. And that's how I approached it. And it sounds so basic, but sometimes it just takes basic to get going. You don't need 49 Excel spreadsheets to just start. You just need to begin. And for
Yeah.
me, what I needed was a calendar, a car, an opportunity, and like a goal, right? And then I just fucking started. It wasn't that crazy and complicated. The parts that were hard were the fact that I looked around at my friends that were all in their 24, 25-year-old range, and they were hanging out, going out, doing dinners, parties, events, whatever. And all I was doing was working. Whitney, I was working my
Yeah.
ass off at all hours of the day, Monday through Sunday. I worked at the restaurant, each restaurant half the week. And then on Sundays, I went to the farmer's market. I'd set up at 6:30 a.m. I'd break it down at 2:30 and I'd clock into Providence by 3 p.m. That was 7 minutes away. So if I took too long to break down my booth, I could run to Providence and not be late or get, in trouble for being late. So you're talking about
Yeah.
that's on Sunday after Monday through Saturday, working these three jobs. And the way I divided my day life was I would do Hedley and Bennett stuff. I would get orders. I would run around to restaurants. I would take orders personally. Like I'd walk in with a notepad and be like, okay, so what are you thinking? What do you want? Here's my 7 swatches of fabric. Which one do you want? And I would just sit there and listen. And I always, as I started getting more team members, I would say, it's like we're doctors and these people have problems. And it's our job to understand what their problem is. And the way you're going to understand it is by really listening to them. So I just loved hearing these chefs explain what the hell was wrong with their uniforms. They'd get so passionate about it. They'd be like, these pockets, they're ripping off. I hate the fabric. The stitching falls apart. I'm always getting holes right around my middle area. It needs to be fixed. But with all their yelling and wailing about issues, it was giving me everything I needed to make the perfect product. So they were like my live focus group. I didn't have to invent what they needed. They were giving me the answers, and that was a beautiful thing. So I was doing that during the day. And then I would run over to Compton, where I had my one sewer who was sewing out of his living room. And he had his son there who kind of just like slept all day. I don't really know what he did, but he was just there. And so their son is there. There's like a sewing machine, a random couch, and like a lot of top ramen everywhere. I mean, it was scrappy times. And then I would give him a roll of fabric and I'd say, here's the order. I'd hand him a piece of paper with the order. And then I'd be like, I'll be back tomorrow. I have to go clock into the restaurant. And that was my life at the beginning. And I don't think I've ever broken it down by that level of scrappiness, but that was the situation. And it was like how the sausage was being made. It wasn't pretty, but the purpose and like drive behind it was so genuine, and it kind of like cut through everything. It didn't matter that I was making them in a scrappy house in Compton, or that I was writing my orders on the back of a paper. Goal of it was so much bigger that people were like, whoa, this is cool, and it's better quality, and it looks nice, and it makes me feel good, and it gives me something to believe in. Yeah. Okay, I'm in. And it was just kind of this, like, if you know, cult following at the beginning. And I got some amazing chefs to wear them and to buy them for me because I couldn't even afford to gift them. And next thing you know, we had like Nancy Silverton and David Chang and like John and Vinny and some great prolific chefs in LA rocking my gear. And people would just be like, where's that from? And it was from me. My Mini Cooper.
It's so inspiring, and I really appreciate you being honest about how scrappy it is and how hard it is, because I think everyone wants to glamorize the process of creating their business or their side hustle or their life through social media. And it really is hard, and it's not pretty all the time. The authentic version is really, really messy. Because I'm still in that place, because I have my own line of organic spice blends. I have a podcast, and I still work as a chef. And so it is all over the place all the time. I'd love to know, what's it like now? Because it's such a huge leap. Like, you're married, you have 2 kids, your company is in a different place and has more offerings. You now have a TV show. What's the schedule like now?
I'm still trying to jam 20 pounds into a 10-pound bag, not gonna lie. Before you and I started our podcast here, I was shoving a cracker in my face and also pumping on the other side while, trying to drink water and stay hydrated, but also not stress out so I don't get, tired too soon. It's like all the things all at once. But I'll say on the business front, I'm not even in the day-to-day anymore. Like, my team runs the day-to-day. That's a huge change. I used to do every job in the company until we got to a place where we could afford one person. And then I sort of peeled that onion layer off and handed them that chunk. And it's been a really hard journey for me to actually let go of stuff, right? You like birth this child of a business, and then you get other people on the bandwagon, and some people are super excited about it, other people are not as excited about it. You kind of have to like navigate your dream and your feelings along with that dream. And that has been like maybe the hardest part, right? And just realizing that like no one's going to be as deeply passionate about it as I am, but that doesn't mean that they don't care. Right? There's lots of people that have helped Hedley and Bennett become the company that it is. I could have never done this alone. And I think that at the beginning, I thought that I could do it alone. And
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't have any other path other than myself. So it was like, all right, well, figure it out. And now, I look around at our team and we have a bunch of people doing social media and marketing and working on all the fun collaborations we're doing. And a lot of my job, I'm the chief brand officer. So my job is creating community and making friends and really allowing our ethos and our business to go live in the world in a way that's honest and that it's not just like some corporate infrastructure that's just out there. Like I always say, you can't buy love. Like you either like something and love it or you don't. And
Yeah.
I've always approached Hedley and Bennett from the stance that I want everyone to know who we are. And even if they don't need us right now, it doesn't matter. We're their friends. And when they do need us, we'll be right there with a big smile and a hug waiting for them to help them with whatever they need, whether it's aprons for the restaurant or the perfect gift for their mom for Mother's Day. Like we're going to be that for them, but we're not going to cram it down their throat and try and hustle them something that they don't actually like love and appreciate, right? That's just a different approach to business, I think, than a corporate infrastructure. We are a corporate infrastructure. We're just like, we don't approach it in that way. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
I do. Yes, it does. And I think it's great. But I'd love to know, how are you taking care of yourself? But, how were you taking care of yourself in the small moments that you had back when you were starting the business? And then what does that look like now? What are some of the wellness or mental health practices that you have that allow you to keep going at like the level that you keep running at?
Yeah. Well, I think by allowing people to take on the jobs that I used to do, that's allowed me to let go of a lot, right? So I have a CEO now. We have a board of directors. We have people that run every single department in our company, and that I feel like pried my fingers off the steering wheel, finger by finger over all these years. Yeah. And I would say that I know I have a lot of friends that are founders, and that's definitely the hardest part, is like allowing other people to step in. One thing that I think is really important is to write down your, let's call it like a policy or a draft on how you want things to be done and how they should get executed. There's a right way to do things, and you figured it out and you made a lot of mistakes to come up with the right way to do it, right? Let's just say like how to close a sale. Let's use that as an example, right? I've done a lot of documenting of my jobs that I've held throughout my journey. And that's allowed me to kind of like hand something over. It's like a handbook and be like, here's how I did this. Here's how I did marketing. Here's how I did sales. Here's how I did social media. Here's how I did this job. And then it's not just like hoping that people figure it out, but it's just kind of giving the tools to them in a written format that then they get trained on and taught so that they can do that job. And that has helped a lot.
That allows you to delegate.
Piece. Yeah, exactly. Like you can't just like, I used to delegate by just being like, here's the job, good luck. And that's not effective at all, right? You got to actually train them up on whatever it is, the concept that you're trying to get across to them, whether it's taking photos of the way that I remember during the holidays, like, there was a specific way I wanted the aprons to be packaged and wrapped. So we took photos of everything. And it's like in restaurants, right? You want the dish to look the same every time. Okay, so then put down the breakdown of the steps, the way the ingredients should be done. Don't just throw a recipe at someone's head and hope that they figure it out. That is like, that's really important. So that's been a big piece of it. And then I would also say like, bringing people on and then bringing people off, being willing to get people on the bus and off the bus. If it's not a good fit, like that's okay. Don't get tied into, oh my gosh, this person has to be here forever. Like there are different ways to approach bringing people onto the team. And I feel like when I first started, anybody that worked for me, I was like, oh my God, never leave me. And now I'm like, no, you know what? This like amazing person who was my coach told me people are going to get on the bus and they're going to get off the bus, and it's part of the journey. And they have different bus stops in their life, and they're going to be approaching different things. And you don't know if they got married or are going to have a kid or someone died in their family, or, now they need to make more money if they want to go do some new career, whatever it is. Like, it's okay. It's part of the path.
You mentioned that you had a coach. Have you had business coaches, personal mentors? How have you gotten kind of just help along the way?
I ask a 1.5 billion questions to any smart person that I meet. And I think I'm like pretty committed to finding the good eggs out there and like putting them in my pocket. Like I meet someone, I feel out their energy, and I think, man, this person is really brilliant. And there's a lot I could share with them, and there's a lot that they can share with me. Like, let's be friends. But I start at a friend level first.
Yeah.
Again, never from a transaction. If you're approaching people as a transaction, like, good luck. Just pack it up and leave, because people just know that a mile away, and it's just gross. Like, if I think someone is awesome and they do really cool things in life and they're ahead of me on my journey, I'm like, whoa, there's a lot for me to learn from them. But I always think, how can I help them, right? And so a lot of people that are really successful, people are like, what can I get from them? And I turn it around. I'm like, what can I give them? How can I help them? And that makes the trust be there, because I'm not there for myself. I'm actually there to help them be better and establish that trust together. And if I need something in the future and I have a question or a favor to ask, they're like, yeah, totally, because you helped me without even asking for anything in the beginning. And so I love that approach. And I've had a lot of people, from finance people to people I found along the way, and I will, as I said, I'll put them in my pocket. And then at a later time, I'm like, hey, I'm having trouble. Can you connect me with someone that you know? And they're like, yeah, absolutely, no problem. And it's just a text away. And then that text away saves you hours of searching for the perfect lawyer, the perfect accountant, the perfect whatever you need.
Is there anything in particular that you're wanting to learn more about right now, or find mentors that can support you with growing in a certain direction at the moment?
Yeah, I have been chairman of our board for 3 years and change. And I just, like everything I do in my life, I wrote a book called Dream First, Details Later. I'm like, okay, dive in, you'll figure it out, no problem. And I've really been starting to dig into, okay, corporate governance. Like, what does that look like? This is something that I'm not super proficient in from a formalized standpoint, and I want to understand it. I want to learn more about it. I think it's really important. And you can just sit there and complain about what you don't know, or you can do something about it. So I literally have been talking to people, and I've found a few really brilliant women that have been on many boards for a long time, and they're like, yeah, well, let me show you like the format of how I work, and this is what I do ahead of board meetings. And I even found like this Harvard Business School online course and a Wharton online course that you can take in the evenings to learn more about that. And it's kind of like in cooking, like the moment you think you already know everything, it's all over. Like, you're always learning. And when you're in a position of leadership, I think sometimes I have felt like I need to know all the answers, and I realize like I don't actually know all the answers, and I will never know all the answers. So
Yes.
what can I do to improve myself today? That has been honestly probably the biggest gift in my journey, is just willingness to keep learning. And anytime I experience overwhelm or burnout or whatever, when I learn how to do it better, the burnout kind of goes away, because I'll read the book and I'll be like, oh my God, I've been doing it all wrong. There's actually 13 other ways to run your finances than that way. Let's try them. And then I'm like reinvigorated because I have the right tools, versus, trying to like cut down a tree with like a toothpick. It's not working. You're like, okay, what you actually needed was an axe. No shit. Okay, here's my axe. Oh my God, look at how fast I cut down that tree. There's nothing wrong with me. I just had the wrong tool.
Absolutely. Gosh, I could really sit and marinate on that for a while, and reflect back when you're super burnt out, and then you learn a new way to do what you've always been doing that's more efficient, and it does reignite you, and the burnout dissipates, and you're somehow able to find, whether it's more time, more energy, more motivation, more passion, something gets reignited and resparked. That's
because
so
burnout is like a giant umbrella for like overwhelm, like discomfort. There's a million things packed into that word, right? But for me, on a personal level, I'm really speaking for myself, like going on long walks, walking it off, reading, educating myself, talking to others to hear how other people have done it. It just puts me in the driver's seat, versus when you are in burnout stage, you're kind of like laying on the ground and like, I can't go forward. This is too hard. I'm not going to move. And this puts me back in a position of like control. Like I'm going to do something about it. I'm not just going to like bend over and lay there. Like, come on, get up, keep going.
So within all this that you are creating and doing and moving every single day, how are you feeling yourself? Do you eat out a lot? Do you get meal delivery? Do you cook at home and meal prep? Like, what are you doing food wise? Like, how do you keep going?
I am huge on vitamins. Huge. Love vitamins. I take a lot of them, mainly because I'm breastfeeding, but even when I'm not breastfeeding, I'm taking a lot of vitamins. I love Thorne. That's like a brand. Standard Process is another one. I mean, I do A, B1, B complex, a ton of C at night, calcium, magnesium, like all of those things kind of like help relax me. And potassium. I do a lot of, I drink a ton of water. I try to avoid alcohol as best I can because I feel horrible with a hangover. And I think now the world is really kind of taken to not drinking, which is really awesome. But it's like, it does not help with thinking on your feet and thinking quickly. I feel like a lot of my job is just reacting and proactively acting. And so if I'm going to drink or do drugs, that gets in the way. So I just don't do that. I'm like, yep, not for me. And to each his own, but on a personal level, I think that really has helped me. We have a Peloton in our room, and after coming back from maternity leave, I was like not working out at all. And I finally decided I'm going to set a small goal. And so I do 10 miles on the Peloton while watching a shitty movie, like just crappy Netflix movie. And I don't feel guilty about it. I'm just like, okay, it's just like a dumb rom-com or Gran Turismo or whatever. And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to pedal till I get to the 10 miles. It takes like 45 minutes or something. But it's doable and it chills me out. So those are a couple of the things that I'm doing. And then I like to swim. I have a swimming pool nearby. And then I love boba. Boba is my kryptonite. Not gonna lie.
But it brings you joy.
It brings me joy, yeah. And I will go out of my way to get the right boba from the right spot. And sometimes I just need boba and then it gets better. And so you got to just say, what's your boba? What is your boba in the world? And lean in and don't feel bad about it.
No, not at all. And like figure out what that food or beverage or item is. And then like go out and find the best of the best, like, or the flavor profiles that light you up. You know, that's, you know, and it's not forever, you know, like if I look back in my life, you have like different passions when it comes to food at different phases. And then it's like your body gets what it needs and then you go on to something else. So while you're in it, if it's boba, just like have the best of it.
Exactly. I'm like 50% sugar, 75% ice. I need the milk tea with the boba pearls. I mean, it's really gotten neurotic. I feel like the people that go to Starbucks and order their absurd drinks, but at the boba place. And you know what? I'm here for it.
That's great. Well, you know, what was that like 15 years ago? Before you were introduced to boba? Did you have something back then?
I don't even drink coffee, so I actually never really had a proper addiction in that way. I think boba is my coffee substitute, and I feel like I'm a part of the people now because I have a thing that I drink that, you know, I'm into. I watch my husband, and he's just has like a deep commitment to his coffee, and he needs that coffee, and he's got to go get his cup and his thing and his little jug, and it's a whole situation, and I don't have that. So I'm like, all right, boba it is.
Well, can you tell me a little bit more about your television show, Kitchen Glow Up, and moving into this kind of next phase of your journey up the mountain when it comes to the culinary space?
Yeah. So Hedley and Bennett, as I said, has been 12 years. And in that, we've been outfitting, you know, some of the best restaurants and chefs out there in the world. And I have always been busting into people's professional kitchens. And so it felt like this really incredible next step in our journey for me to bust into people's home kitchens in the same way and with the same vigor and kind of like the energy where people are like, what is happening? I don't know what's happening, but I'm here for it, but I'm a little scared. And that is how people felt when I went into their restaurants. I'd be like, these uniforms don't work. We got to make them better. Look, best quality, best fabric, best this, that, the other. And then I would leave and they'd be like, what just happened? But we look so much better and we're so happy. So it's the same style. And now I just go into people's homes and I basically kind of like hand hold them through the process of up leveling their home kitchen. And we up level the daylights out of it. It is called a kitchen glow up because we're not necessarily taking walls out, although we have in a couple of episodes, but we're emptying out all the drawers. We're going through all their muck. We're making them look at what they have and be willing to let go of things that they've been holding on to. So there's like an emotional side to it, which I didn't even realize. And by the end of it, they have an incredibly organized kitchen that has been remodeled as well, but through the lens of a chef. And so I create all these zones for them. Like they now have a baking zone and a pantry and a prep station for all their prep supplies, like knives and spices and mixing bowls and whisks. Versus a lot of people, you go into their kitchen and it's literally like a Tupperware drawer with stuff from 20 years ago combined with pots and random mugs, and you don't know where a spoon is, and the spoon's jammed into a bowl with a bunch of other cups, and it's a nightmare disaster. And if you don't even know where anything is, how are you ever going to be inspired to cook? So we organize things, and it really has changed people's lives. Like I still get emails and DMs from the people I did their houses, the 8 houses I did last year. They're like, Ellen, my kitchen's incredible. Like I cook so much better. I feel so much better. My family is connected. We actually like know where things are at. And yeah, it's pretty inspiring. Like it's a good next step on our journey.
Yeah, and I saw that you did Chef Kat's kitchen. Who has Highly Likely, and I've had her on my podcast before to chat. And it was really exciting to see you do a chef's home kitchen.
Yeah, she was shocked as I was shocked. We were both shocked that she had so much stuff that didn't have the right home and the right place. Because, you know, in a professional setting, you have a team of people helping you have a certain level of organization. And at home, it's yourself, right? So you kind of have to be everything to yourself. And for her, it was chaos. Like everywhere I looked, there was a spice box. There were just spices everywhere. Like you opened a little nook and spices came pouring out. You opened a cabinet and there were piles of spices. You pulled a box out from under a table, spices. Like it was just spices for days. And I helped her let go of a lot of things. And she's now on this like really exciting next journey where she's going to be on a big show. She can't say what the show is, but she's been training out of her kitchen at home. And she's like, Ellen, I couldn't have done this if you hadn't overhauled my kitchen and made it so much more functional. Because that's really what it came down to. Is like the show is about function in your kitchen, not just like, can you make your kitchen look cute? Everyone can make their kitchen look cute. Does it work? Is a whole other ballgame.
No. And as personal chefs, we know we've been in a lot of people's home kitchens.
Oh my gosh.
And they work with interior designers. They spent a lot of money renovating their house and renovating their kitchen. But an interior designer doesn't necessarily cook at home. So when they're laying out that kitchen for the client, they're not necessarily laying it out properly. And they're definitely not making stations. So I've worked in a lot of great, beautiful kitchens that are completely dysfunctional.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I mean 100%. That's actually like the thing I saw the most is in places where someone has been a designer of some sort. If they don't cook, they are not thinking about it through the lens of a chef. They are just thinking about it through pure good looks and nothing else.
Is there any through line that you've seen in all the kitchens that you remodeled that people really wanted?
That's such a great question. Okay, said differently, every kitchen had a horrible Tupperware situation. Everyone needed an overhaul there. Like there was not a single kitchen that I went to that I thought, okay, you guys have this under control. It was like everybody had different lids, different colors, different sizes, different types. Things didn't nest into each other. They didn't have enough space. So it was a big problem. So that was one of them. The other one was a lot of people, ironically, don't really have a home pantry. They have cabinets and random cabinets, and the cabinets are spread out all over the place. And so they don't have one particular zone to go look at what is available to cook. So they have a hard time identifying what's missing for grocery shopping or where things are. Do I have 4 of that bag of flour. Like it's all sort of buried behind. The other thing that was a big aha for a lot of people was like, if you can't see it, you can't use it. So making things visible to people was huge, and leaving space versus cramming everything in. A lot of times there's jamming and cramming that happens. And so we just worked on creating space for everything. So it's like, you don't need to jam 14 plates into there. You actually are only cooking for 5 people at most at home. So why do you have 15 plates there? Okay, those are for Thanksgiving that you do once a year. Cool. We're going to move that to your events cabinet or your entertainment cabinet. And that's going to be only for when you do special occasion dinners. And the rest of the year, you're just going to have the plates that you use here. And so kind of reshifting people's mindsets to, what am I using 364 days a year? That should be in your main kitchen. And then all the other, like the giant braising dish that you use for your turkey doesn't need to take up half of your pot and pan cabinet. You can actually put that somewhere else and use it when you need it, but don't ruin the rest of your existence in your kitchen the rest of the year.
That's great advice. What do you keep out on your counter that you use consistently?
Well, this was a big one. Not a lot. I use my counters as prep space. They're my prep table, right? And I think in restaurants, you're sort of used to that. It's an empty, open table where you can put things out and break it down and put it away. So what I have on my counter is very minimal. I have a Breville Jewel toaster oven that just lives on my counter. The stove the oven we don't love, so we just have that out all the time. I have a Zojirushi rice maker that has rice in it permanently because I have 2 little kids and they eat a lot of rice. And then we have a little station next to my stove that has olive oil, vinegar, a cutting board, the core cooking tools, right? Like a spatula, spoon, things like that, salt, pepper, and that's it. The rest of the kitchen is like, the rest of the counters are empty.
I love that. Very, very similar. What are you really into right now in the health or wellness or spiritual space? Anything in particular that's really lighting you up or supporting you?
I mean, different strokes for different folks, but like, God, whatever it is, whether it's God or, books or meditation or self-help, whatever people need to do to survive, like, more power to them. I think there's a lot of judgment and opinions out there. I'm like, oh my God, you're doing that or this or the other. It's just like, lean in. For me personally, I do really, really value what I said to you, like exercise, solo time, self-improvement through learning. Like, I love it. I thrive from it. And so when I feel down about something, I'm like, okay, what are 4 books I can read about that thing that are going to make me better? And you'll just see a stack of books arrive to my house within days of like parenting. We're getting beat up on parenting. We have 2 little kids under 3 years old. I have like 9 parenting books next to my desk. Next to my bed. I'm like, okay, I'm not really understanding certain things in finance. So I bought a bunch of books about money and finance. And it's like, there's no shame in that. And so just this constant journey to learn is something that just fills my cup a lot.
I love that. Definitely need to pick up some more books in new categories. So thank you for that. That's super helpful.
But also like audiobooks, podcasts, like there are many ways to learn knowledge. And when I have excuses and I think about how much time I sit on my phone and I'm like, you just clocked 2 hours today on your phone. Do not tell me you can't read a book for an hour. Yeah. That's just a lie. So if you just swap out your time that you're wasting on something like Instagram and you move it towards educating yourself to be smarter, like there's no reason you can't do that.
Well, where can people continue to connect and learn from you? Where can they watch your television show? Where can they learn more about Hedley and Bennett? Can you share all the places?
100%. Okay, so we'll start. For your small period of time that you do go on Instagram, you could go to Ellen Marie Bennett and Hedley and Bennett. And it's Hedley, Hedley. So Hedley and Bennett, Ellen Marie Bennett, those are 2 separate accounts. On TikTok, we have almost 1 million followers and have really interesting stuff on there. So Highly recommend following. Hedleyandbennett.com is our website, and the show is called Kitchen Glow Up, and you can watch it on Tastemade. The easiest hack to get to the show, because sometimes it's a little hard to find, is just type in Kitchen Glow Up on Apple TV and it'll take you
Cool.
to the channel. And I would just say, like, send a DM, say hi. Like, I love saying hi to people. And yeah, I hope everybody watches our show and gets aprons for the holidays. We're like rolling into freaking Q4 right now. Q4 is quarter four. We're rolling into
Yeah.
holiday, like Christmas, Hanukkah. It's all coming so fast. I can't even believe it. But we make amazing embroidered aprons, which are the best presents. So yeah, and our knives. Oh my God, they're so good.
Yeah, I keep meaning, I'm on my to-do list is to take some of my teammates up to LA for the day because we're in Orange County, and to go out to lunch and then stop by your space just south of downtown so we can figure out like a nice team uniform, because sometimes it's just nice going in and seeing them in person too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, hit me up. Let me know and I'll connect you with our team, take care of you, give you a proper tour.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, it was such a pleasure to have you on. And if anyone that's listening, if you get an opportunity to see Ellen speak, or if you are considering going to some sort of event and then you see that she is on the schedule as a speaker, she is so motivating in person. So if you need a little pep in your step, I highly suggest, just looking out there and seeing the next time she's speaking in person or picking up her book, because I really appreciate you sharing your story. And I'm just so impressed by how you just stay positive and keep going and moving forward in your culinary career, because this is a fun space to be in, but it's also heavy and hard on the physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental body. So I really admire what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank you, Whitney. Thank you for having me. This was awesome.